Hello everyone, welcome back to our Accounting 210. In this video, we continue with chapter 2, building blocks of manager accounting. I think we just have one learning objective left. So work with me, work really hard with me today, and let's knock that part down, right? So let's go to our last part. I remember it's learning objective 7. Make sure we talk about all the costs. You know, we said, hey, we can classify as direct, indirect, period, product. Now we have another standard. We can separate the costs to fixed or variable costs. And then depending on their total and average cost. Okay, so we have to know what's the meaning of their fixed cost and the variable cost regarding total and then regarding the average. Okay, so before I ask you, before we go to look at the detail, I'll ask you a question. What do you think? What's the meaning of fixed cost? Fixed costs are costs that are fixed, right? Variable costs are the cost that varies, right? Yeah, kind of like that, but what's the meaning? What's the meaning? So let's say you drive a car, right? So I always say if we see the cost of object is a car, and then most likely two costs happens when you drive a car. One is the gas. So if you know what's the meaning of gas, right? You drive more, you have to pay more gas. And then second, we just say hey, it's kind of like insurance, car insurance. So you tell me what is fixed cost, what is variable cost between these two costs. I think most of you will say, oh, yeah, I kind of got a guess should be variable cost. Why? Because the more you drive, right, the more you drive, the more gas you have to put. So basically, your total variable cost will increase when you have more miles. But for the insurance, it's a fixed cost, right? Because no matter how many miles you drive, unless you drive all the way to China, right? Most likely, the total fixed cost is constant. You drive 1 mile, you drive 2 miles, you drive 1,000 miles. Most likely, it's like a month is $100. Let's just make up a number. So yeah, you got it. Oh yeah, that's it, right? That's it. So we talk about the variable cost. Total variable cost increases if you have more activity. Total fixed cost stays the same if you have more or less. So that's the reason it's fixed. It doesn't change, it's fixed. Variable cost varies. When we talk about that, it's more correlated with their total cost. Fixed cost total is fixed. Variable cost total is variable. But for average, how about for average? For average, actually, it's the other story. If it's the gas, for average, actually, the variable cost is constant, right? It's the average is the per unit. If I say it instead, I should say per unit. It's constant. Your first mile is $2. Your second mile $2. Your third mile $2. Your fourth mile $2. So per unit, actually variable cost is constant. Okay, actually, for the insurance, your per unit actually decreases. Why? Because you pay $100. I'll just make up a number. You pay $100 for 1 month, right? For 1 month. If you just drive 1 mile, then it will be $100 per mile. But if you drive 10 miles, it will be $10 per mile. If you drive 100 miles, I cannot write, then it will be $1. So the more you drive, you allocate it to each mile actually decreases. So make sure you know the total and then also know the per unit. Okay, also know the per unit. When you do your exam, when you do your quiz, read your questions very carefully. Does the question ask you about your total or ask you about per unit? Okay, I think that's almost all. Fixed cost. If you think about the fixed cost, so if you think about in total, then it will be constant. If you think about total, it will be constant. So fixed cost in total is constant, okay? And then variable cost, if it's a total, then it varies, right? If it's total, then it goes up, it goes up. But as I said, if it's asking about per unit, if it's asking about per unit, if I just put it here, if I say, hey, per unit, then fixed cost actually will decrease. Fixed cost will decrease. And then your variable cost per unit, if I ask you about per unit, is constant, right? So the first mile, the gas is $2, second mile is also $2. We kind of talk about that. We said direct material is most likely as a variable cost. Direct labor is kind of like variable cost. Manufacturing overhead can be variable and fixed. So your total product cost will be fixed plus your variable. We talk more detail in chapter 6. So don't worry too much if you still have some concerns. Just get the general idea and then get your assignment and quiz correct. Talk about total cost. So your total cost will be your fixed cost plus your variable cost per unit times your number of units. So let's say your fixed cost, your insurance is $20 million, right? I just make up a number, but we cannot say this is insurance. We still use the Toyota. We still use Toyota. So let's say your fixed cost. It's still insurance. The insurance of your company, right? So the insurance is 20 million. So this is your fixed cost. For each one vehicle, the variable cost is 5,000, and you totally made 10,000 vehicle. So your total variable cost will be 5,000 times your 10,000 units. So you got 70,000. You got 70,000 units. You got $70,000 as the total cost. Per average, if you said, hey, total will be $70,000 and I totally made 10,000 vehicle. So for each one is 7,000 per vehicle. That's for average cost. Can you use that average cost to make a prediction for the future? You said, can I say, hey, each one is 7,000? Then if next year I make 12,000, will my total cost will be 84 million, yes or no? I leave this question to you. And then I may ask you a question, as a quiz next time. So I ask you, look at this one. You said, hey, I calculated each month average cost is 7,000. And then I think next year I will produce 12,000 units. So will my predicted total cost be 84 million? Yes or no? Is this number correct? Is this number correct or not correct? Okay, I'll leave this question to not leave this question to me. I'll leave this question to you. And then I may ask you, I may let you email me your work. Who knows, right? But make sure you read your textbook. You read your textbook and get ideas in case I ask you next time. Okay, thank you. That's all in chapter 2. You all did an excellent job. We talked about those 3 companies. We talk about value chain. We talk about, hey, how do we separate it to direct and then indirect, to the product cost and then to period cost. We talk about operating income. We talk about even balance sheet. We said, don't worry about 2.6. And then we talk about fixed cost and then variable cost. Remember, I'll leave one question to you and I'll see you next time. Thank you.